So I wanted to talk about technology in this video, and two main technologies: technology and regulation. Technology and sociological regulation. The two main things here are hemp and planes. So planes fly through the air and they make noise, and they make a lot of noise. And there's been some studies about the actual effects of plane pathways, and basically it has effects on the individual. It's a scheduled activation of noise, and it's a scheduled activation of a certain kind of noise, one that's foreign, almost completely foreign to. And again, a child would be completely foreign to these stimuli if they're pre language. Um, the parent might not have the uh, uh, nonverbal ability to actually communicate these concepts to the child. But again, planes weren't regulated on the flight pattern of planes, and the flight of planes wasn't regulated until a certain time. It wasn't regulated until, I believe, the like around World War II or World War I. But in the United States, it was just you could fly anywhere and it didn't really matter. It was the air is the air. As long as you don't crash, then there's no problem. But I and it caused some problems. The regulation actually has caused a lot of problems in regards to uh, travel, making travel inaccessible to certain people. But again, I agree with these regulations 100% because they they have solved a lot of problems that we wouldn't have even really been able to properly comprehend if we didn't have these laws. Because these laws, these regulations were originally put into place almost by accident. Again, the same reason that hemp regulations were put into place is almost by accident. And the fact that these regulations were it was more of like a bureaucratic decision, lobbying the government. I believe that's the history of it. But basically, it caused a lot of it caused a lot of problems in terms of getting people up in the air, and licenses. And I believe the fact that we had plane licenses probably reinforced the fact that we have driver's licenses. And just if we didn't have these things, then the world's the streets would be a lot more dangerous. But in a sense, we would have a different infrastructure to deal with the danger. So we can't really comprehend what the world would be like without these licenses, because it would be a completely different world. Because there are direct repercussions of crashing, there are direct repercussions of bad behavior under the influence of a vehicle. So these things have a major influence on our infrastructure and on our lack of infrastructure. Because if you're able to say to someone, if you're able to actually effectively control the behavior of someone under the use of a tool, then that's the easiest route to mitigate damage. However, we've come to a point where, again, with autonomous vehicles being so ubiquitous, that we actually do need the infrastructure that is stymied by these licenses. So we actually now need this infrastructure, but the infrastructure that would have been in place if we didn't have licenses, if we didn't have such strict regulations. Just because the fact of autonomous cars brings up whole different issues uh, of causality and of responsibility in these instances. So it actually lowers the threshold of punishment. It lowers the uh, reasonable threshold of punishment, the logical, the reasonable threshold of punishment in these issues of accidental deviance. So again, I've pulled into to cars now, and I didn't mean to do that. But basically, what I want to say about planes is I'll get into that in a second. But I'm going to go back to hemp right now. But hemp, basically, that was an accidental And I think that's a well-known story that the reason why hemp and cannabis is illegal is because they wanted to make the pulp and paper industry wanted to make hemp illegal to enforce their monopoly on paper and pulp and paper. So basically, when the decorticator was invented, right, it was almost soon after it was made obsolete by regulation, which is interesting. But it's interesting because we've actually developed so many other alternatives to hemp now that by making hemp, uh, which is already legal in many instances, it's legal but it's regulated still in most countries. But and again, we know about the cannabis, but the hemp actually it's if we make that completely legal, if we make hemp completely legal, just hemp, then, and again, because of the cannabis, there would be so much uproar if you just made hemp legal that you'd have to make cannabis legal as well because it's the same plant, but it's the same species. It's cannabis sativa. But if you just made hemp legal, just made hemp completely legal. None of the four plant ideas that the government of the Liberal government of Canada is proposing for, I guess, the next year, 2018 or so, in the summer. I believe that if you just made hemp legal, that you would actually lessen the industrial load and the scientific load and the need for all of these things on our society because we've developed all these industries that produce the things that hemp uh, can do. So you would actually, in essence, give families and corporations the choice for a cheaper alternative for hundreds of industries. So it would lessen the societal load, and it would lessen the actual danger of error in society, of potential for incidents of chaos. It would actually lower the incidence of chaos by just making a plant, an industrial plant, legal. Um, just because we've created all these industries that we rely on now because of this. So it's basically taking the reliance of certain industries and making it creating multivalent solutions for different industries. Um, Mainly textile and clothes is textile, but yeah. So but hundreds of industries. But that's mainly all I have to say about hemp. But again, the planes and hemp, they're regulated for similar reasons for the initial incidence of these regulations. And I don't want to get into the cannabis ordeal because that's going to solve itself. There's clear reasons why if that doesn't get solved that there'll be other problems just mainly and mainly just because of the hemp and the benefits that the hemp uh, offers. So planes again. I'm going to go back to planes. The main thing with planes is that they have such a heavy noise violation, right? If you watch the decibel level, it gets probably into the ranges of chaotic behavior that actually influences distraction. So if there's simple technological solutions, and again, the reason why we don't have these technological solutions and we haven't even like talked about them en masse is because of the regulation. Is because there's so few planes in the air that it's not actually deemed necessary. It's such a minor distraction. We've grown used to it. It's nothing that's really harming us. So or we've grown so used to it that we don't even care anymore. It's just a fact of our lives. We can't affect it. And I think that's one of the problems is that we think we can't affect it. But we've grown to a certain point, and also perhaps because of the fact that hemp is made illegal, we've made so many scientific and technological industrial progresses that we're at a point now. We have so many different routes of to solve problems that that we don't even know what the problems are. We don't even think about them because we were solving the problems. We're too busy solving the problems. These other problems that are caused by again lack of something that we use for so long. Uh, in plastics is the main solution to hemp fibers. But noise isolation and cancellation uh, is the main solution to the plane problem. And the way I would go about solving this is uh, offer proper noise isolation on houses. That's one bit. That's one of the more intensive bits that would take perhaps more resources, more man hours. But the easier route is noise cancellation. And the easiest method here is actually to offer noise cancellation methods on the planes themselves. Or again, there's a binary decision fork that I see for attaching these to the planes themselves. And the first is attaching noise cancellation devices which emit the exact inverse frequency of the sound that's being distributed by the turbines themselves. So it'll counteract the sound, and it'll solve the problem. There'll be almost no noise on these planes. And then if but that's one element of the binary fork that's related to the planes themselves. The second is adding a additional element to adding a minor fleet to every large plane vessel. So what I mean by this is adding uh, tag drones which follow or are actually somehow tethered to the plane themselves that then can actually uh, positionally parabolically target the sound and then offer the inverse sine wave sound, uh, the inverse perhaps sine wave is not the correct terminology, but offer the inverse sound wave to the sound being emitted by the turbines. And it's very easy if you have non quadcopter drones. If you have, say, just like plane based like wing based drones that are electronic, so they're making very very little sound, but they have a parabolic tracking mechanism that's going to track the turbines, or even just having a sound emitter, multiple sound emitters, or an omnidirectional sound emitter that takes in readings from the sensors and actually emits the inverse sound effect upon the turbines. So you could have one for each turbine or several for each turbine. You could have them trailing around each ship, each vessel, each large plane. But basically, what that does is it offers a solution, and it offers a novel solution for all you airlines that want to say, "Hey, we're not creating noise pollution. We're just flying sound." So the first airline to get on that, I believe you're going to make a lot more money. So unless there's regulations against actually initiating these procedures, and again, in certain countries there won't be. So just build the technology and initiate it. And the only issue I would see in terms of uh, the drone technology, there would be almost no issue if you actually attach it to the plane itself. But the only issue of potential damage would be if one of the drones malfunctioned or if it hit a bird or something and then it just collapsed. But you could have target seeking drones that would know when a drone is collapsed, and it'll go and it'll grab the drone and it'll retrieve it and bring it back to the plane, or just land somewhere and have a GPS, land somewhere safe and somewhere traditional, and then a cleanup crew will come and pick up the drone, and it'll just solve that. And those are minor issues for your drone fleet, so that's not going to happen a lot. So just yeah, those are two offers for two solutions for any really novel, really great airline to pick up on. But again, if airlines aren't willing to solve it, then I believe the third, again, sorry, it cut off there, the filming, but the third option is to have uh, just civilians to attach, say, a parabolic tracking device and a noise canceling uh, signature would be emitted by a speaker. Um, that would basically it would track the basic direction of the plane, and it would emit the inverse sound wave that would actually cancel out the sounds. You wouldn't have to worry about noise isolating your house. So uh, that's an option for you suburbanites that hate noise pollution, and you're hackers or you're creators and you want to build something neat. That's a cool weekend project that you could just set up on your roof and see how it works. And again, if you have a parabolic microphone and a directional microphone, you could actually cancel it at the source and or close to the source. You have a wide catch, a wide field speaker that's not actually emitting basically the inverse to the wave to the neighbors or in the direction that would go basically down towards your roof or side to the side. And that would actually basically just target the problem of the sound, and you wouldn't have any weird like inverse sounds of a turbine actually of a several kilometers away turbine actually like the inverse of that. You wouldn't have that weird sound just hitting your neighbors. You wouldn't be creating any random incidents, noise pollution, because at certain times, if the uh, directional speaker wasn't positioned just correctly, you would have weird occasions of just random noises that wouldn't make much sense. But again, it would be incidental, so you could just cover that up with additional speakers that would cover it, because it would be so infrequent. But again, this is the main solution that I see that could solve this if you want to take it in your own hands as just a weekend project. But again, just simple device, parabolic microphone and a directional speaker. So that's gonna just put the inverse, and it's actually gonna because it's a directional, a wide catch directional device. It's actually gonna help your neighbors too. So if one person in the neighborhood installs these things, then it's gonna cut noise pollution from planes for just about all of your neighbors. So if you wanna be the good neighbor and just spend a couple $100, then right on you. But that's about all I have to say about planes and hemp. So anyways, have a thank you for listening.